on? Excuse me. Good evening. We weren't expecting this crowd, but thank you for showing up, especially 2250. Thank you. Unfortunately, this room does not hold everyone here. At this moment, we're trying to get what we call our overflow room straight. It's cooler. There is a TV in there. I understand you guys want to be able to see, and you may not like the idea you have to go to another room, but unfortunately, we're reaching our capacity for the fire code, and I don't want the fire marshal getting mad at me. So unfortunately, everyone that's on the wall is going to have to go to that area, which is down the hall to the left. Give us a moment so we can get the chairs set up. That room is not as big as this one either, so there will be some standing in there also. And then, of course, if you want, you can stand in the hallway, but we are not allowed to have everyone standing inside here. So if there are some free seats, please have a seat in what is open. And I understand you may be trying to save a seat for someone, but unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do that. Thank you. Excuse me. Once again, good evening. The gentleman, officer or sergeant, if you would follow him, everyone that's on the wall, to the overflow room, please. And we're going to continue to set up chairs inside there. But I need everyone that's on the wall to please follow the sergeant. Thank you. Hey, Sarge, come here. Do we have anyone in here that's speaking tonight? Okay, I know. Okay, just want to make sure. If you are speaking, we want to make sure you're close by. You're not way down there having to take that walk.
Good evening to everyone, and let me welcome you to the June 6th, 2019 meeting of the Prince George's County Board of Education. We had scheduled this evening one of our students to open our board meeting, Miss Miracle Mabry, but she is not feeling well, so she will not be with us this evening. As we start our meeting, I would ask everyone to please turn off all of your wireless communications devices as they interfere with our wireless communications and microphones and the taping of this meeting. We will now have our board prayer led by Ms. Shepard. Now have the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Ellis, thank you so much for your staffing the meeting for us from the board staff. Would you please call the roll?
Yes, good evening. Ms. Ahmed.
Here.
Ms. Boozer-Strother.
Here.
Mr. Burrows.
Here.
Ms. Eubanks.
Here.
Mr. Montero.
Here.
Mr. Murray. Ms. Page. Ms. Queen. Ms. Shepard.
Here.
Mr. Thomas.
Here.
Mr. Valentine. Mr. Wallace.
Present.
Mrs. Williams.
Present.
Dr. Thornton.
Present. Thank you. I'd like to now have a motion to adopt the June 6, 2019 board meeting agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. And are there any questions regarding the agenda? Any questions regarding the agenda?
Colleagues, the board leadership team would request that members that we approve the agenda without item 7.01, the Educational Facilities Master Plan. We want to have a board work session on this topic so that board members can express their concerns and get us on one accord if possible.
Is there a second to the adjustment to the agenda? It's been properly moved and seconded that the agenda be adjusted as recommended. I will call on Mr. Wallace.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had a question for the board leadership team on when a possible date for that schedule of that work session will be. I don't know if there's timing that we need to have with the EFMP, with the administration, with the submission to the county and the state. We just reconstituted our board policy around committees, and this past Tuesday we had a very robust conversation around this very matter. I didn't want to, be dissentful to the work of the committee.
And we thank you so much for the work of that committee, which you chair. Mr. Valentine.
Thank you. My question is to the administration and the impact that delaying this vote on the amendment to the EFMP would have moving forward. For clarification, and many of those who came here tonight to speak on behalf of this item.
Yes, we would need approval of this item for the Educational Facility Master Plan by July 1 to move forward to the state.
And so, Mr. Chairman, the idea that this will be delayed until our 20th meeting, our June 20th board meeting?
Any delay associated with this would have to be consistent with the state and requirement that we approve a master plan and associated CIP. So this board would have to work with the administration to make sure that is done.
Okay, I know my vice chair mentioned having a work session, so I imagine we would not be able to have one between now and the 20th.
Unless unless the work session is scheduled between now and the 20th or after the 20th, allowing for the board to get its master plan to the state with the CIP before the
Right.
August deadline.
July deadline, I mind, July 1st deadline?
Correct.
Okay, July 1st, not August, thank you.
That would be a difficult task, you're right. Any other comments regarding the proposal? Hearing none, call the roll, Ms. Ellis. This is the adjustment to the agenda as recommended, which is pulling item 7.1.
Ms. Ahmed,
Aye.
Ms. Boozer Strother,
No.
Mr. Burrows, Ms. Eubanks, Mr. Montero,
No.
Mr. Murray,
Aye.
Ms. Page, Ms. Queen, Ms. Shepherd,
No.
Mr. Thomas,
No.
Mr. Valentine,
No.
Mr. Wallace,
No.
Ms. Williams,
No.
Dr. Thornton.
Aye.
Five ayes and 8 noes.
Thank you. The motion does not pass. Colleagues, we'll turn our attention to the approval of the board's minutes of May 9. A motion is in order. Huh? You moved that we modify it. The agenda, you're right. The agenda is before you as unamended. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposing, no. The ayes have it. We now move to the minutes of May 9. Is there a motion in order? Is there a second? So properly moved and seconded that the board approve its May 9th, 2019 board meeting agenda and, minutes. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposing, no. The ayes have it. We'll now move to item 2.6, which is news break, graduation triumphs. Dr. Golston and your staff.
Congratulations, class of 2019.
At 32 graduation ceremonies across Prince George's County these past few weeks, the colors of the graduates' robes may have differed, along with the width of their smiles and the number of words in their speeches. But for each of the 4,383 seniors getting their diplomas, it was a similarly triumphal moment.
To my senior class, the class of 2019, we have made it.
Once I started high school, I made it my mission to become valedictorian because of my parents. Like many of you, I am also the first person to be graduating in my family and to become valedictorian.
Inside cavernous halls like the Xfinity Center, the graduates, bedecked with medals and sashes testifying to their achievements, and looking proud, relieved, and a bit bedazzled, witnessed the lights on this mortarboard. All listened attentively to adults sing their praises and offer words of advice.
And can we just go crazy for just 1 second to congratulate these graduates today?
I bring you heartfelt greetings on behalf of our 22,000 amazing employees in the Prince George's County Public School family. You have formally completed 13 years of education. You have passed PARCC exams, taken advanced placement courses and exams, dual enrollment, and fulfilled the graduation requirements in preparation for your post-secondary work in the world of trade, college, workforce, and the military.
I felt hope thinking about this entire class that collectively received over $22 million worth of scholarship offers and will be attending over 90 different colleges this fall. I felt hope.
We have 120 students who maintain a 4.0 for all 4 years. Y'all need to stand up. That's the most we've had. Thank you very much.
our voices and perspectives matter. And if we don't have a seat at the decision-making table, important policies that affect our generation will be made without our input. So continue to stay engaged with your community as an active citizen, wherever you go, whatever career path you decide to choose, and make sure that you register and go vote.
Among the most poignant commencement moments were the stories of students overcoming odds and setbacks, the often dire circumstances before graduation day's pomp. Listen to a valedictorian's desperate challenges in her native Nigeria.
Back home in Nigeria, we barely had light. Oftentimes, I had to use lantern to do my homework. I had no Wi-Fi, computer, laptop, iPhone, or iPad.
And listen to a salutatorian who lost her mother and had to somehow carry on.
After my mother's death, I became motivated to change the status quo. I got honor roll in elementary school for a couple of years, but never the principal's honor roll. Middle school, my grades plummeted. I hung out with the wrong people, and it showed. So please keep in mind that in these moments of your life, when you are the most vulnerable and the most impressionable due to a reasonable surge of emotions, please be careful who you surround yourselves with.
And finally, empathize with a young man who found failure to be the greatest of motivators.
I took 3 APs my junior year. Not proud to say it, but I took them lightly and I failed all of my AP exams. I'm sorry, Mom. But this taught me that failures are a part of life, which teaches us to try even harder and grow from them and try not to make the same mistakes again.
At each ceremony, there were plenty of tears, but there were far more hugs and handshakes and sheer exuberance as diplomas were formally presented. So excited were some graduates that they almost left behind the paper that they came for. Through all the celebrating, the class also showed their courage and determination to right what is wrong in the dangerous world they're inheriting.
When legislators did not pass gun laws to protect us following Florida shooting and others around the country, we stood in solidarity and we marched for our lives. Mustangs, we are motivated and we get our voices heard.
And perhaps most important, the new graduates acknowledged their debt to Prince George's schools and to their families, and their responsibility to honor and burnish the reputations of them both as they go forward.
My father always told me that when I left the house, I not only represented myself, but I represented the Page household. And I didn't really internalize what that meant until recently. See, what we do now, what we have done, and what we will do not only impact us and represent our families, but the next generation to come. Each person represents a chapter in your family's book. We are the next chapter in that book, and I'm confident that our families will be proud of what will be written on those pages.
There can be no doubt that each of this year's graduates will do their families, their county, and their country very proud indeed. All Godspeed to the class of 2019. This is Dave Zarin reporting.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Golson and Mr. Zarin and our communications team. I've spoken to people to indicate to them the uniqueness of what you saw there and what happened over the past 2 weeks in this county, which is not reproducible anywhere else in the nation in terms of the great diversity of the young scholars that you've seen there. Their global footprint is not found anywhere else in this nation in the size and diversity. So let us not take that for granted. Let us congratulate our students and the uniqueness that represents the Prince George's County public school system. We have a practice that each board meeting, we allow a board member a point of personal privilege. For this meeting, we're acknowledging Ms. Ahmed. Ms. Ahmed, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, last month, District 5's Bowie High School had an annual senior job and career fair that's hosted by the Bowie High School PTSO. There is one woman that has been the driving force of that event, and I want to recognize and honor her today. This woman is really the epitome of advocacy, action, and true parent leadership. To give you an understanding, this senior job and career fair has been happening since 2016 when her child was a senior at Bowie High School, and she worked to maintain and continue that fair years after her daughter had graduated. Both of her children are in the military or are pursuing to be in the military. Her son is in the Navy, and her daughter is in college to be at the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy in New York. And so with that, I want to honor and give a certificate of recognition to Ms. Karen Parker in recognition for her consistent dedication to the students of Bowie High School, her tireless efforts in organizing the annual Senior Job and Career Fair, and applauding her for her determined endeavors towards academic and vocational achievements for all students. Ms. Parker, could you please come up with the Bowie High School PTSO and your principal?
Dr. Golson, would you join them in? Now, as chair of the Board of Education, I would like a point of personal privilege. We have a new executive director of the Board of Education. And you can see the smiles and the collegiality on the part of this board, and it's largely because of the presence of our new executive director. Ms. Susan King, would you please stand? She's the new executive director of the Prince George's County Board of Education. Ms. King is an accomplished attorney of many years of service to secondary education, and we're just happy to have you as a part of the Board of Education's team. We look forward to your leadership and service of this community. So welcome. You're welcome. The chair's report is brief. I want to, first of all, ask us for a moment of silence. If you would begin it as I read the names of loved ones of our school system that we've lost. Miss Eleanor Silver, aunt of Gwen Mason, our chief special education student services leader. Mr. Claude Covington, father of Melissa Covington, office of the chief of school support and leadership. Mr. Joel Mays, food service assistant at High Point High School. Mr. John Choi, math teacher, Isaac Gordine Middle School. Ms. Barbara Goodley, classroom teacher at the James McHenry Elementary School. And thank you for your moment of silence on behalf of, in memory of those who've lived well and now who have departed from among us. Thank you very much. We have upcoming meetings on June 14th. Well, first of all, on June 14th, this is a happy day for many, I suppose, the last day of school for students. It will be a 2-hour dismissal, 2-hour early dismissal. On June 20th, a very important meeting by this Board of Education where we will, among other things, but most importantly, reconcile our FY20 fiscal year budget. And so we invite your attention to our deliberations. You'll be hopefully encouraged by the work of this board as it approaches reconciliation and the work of our newly established Budget, Fiscal Affairs, and Operations Committee led by Mr. Wallace and joined by other board members, our Vice Chair, and Mr. Valentine and Ms. Queen on that committee. So they're working hard with the superintendent or the CEO to make a recommendation to the Board of Education. Persons interested in speaking, this is for the TV audience before this board, if you would register to speak online using our board work site. Keep in mind that 15 individuals, first come, first serve, are allowed to speak. If one of those 15 persons does not arrive, persons who come by 7 and sign up will be added to the list. At this point, I will yield the floor to our Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Golson, for your report. Dr. Golson.
Thank you. Good evening. Graduation season concluded this Monday for Prince George's County Public Schools. Congratulations to over 7,500 students that are in our graduating class of 2019. Graduation is one of my favorite times of the year, and it's with great pride I had the honor to watch many of our students cross the stage to receive their high school diploma. They exemplify excellence, and I look forward to hearing of their success in college and careers. You can visit our main webpage at www.pgcps.org/future-ready to view highlights of our graduation season. Congratulations are in order for the winning student teams for this year's Snowplow Mural Design Contest. Of course, we won't use those snowplows until next school year. But our computer graphics students designed the murals, and designs were painted onto snowplow blades by Studio Art students. First place goes to Eleanor Roosevelt High School. The International High School at Largo received second place, and Duval High School received third place. Honorable mention to Oxon Hill and Parkdale, and would like to thank the additional schools for participating: Charles Herbert Flowers High School, Crossland, Dr. Henry A. Wise Junior High School, Frederick Douglass High School, Largo, Laurel, Northwestern, Potomac, Suitland, and Surrattsville. You can visit our website for photos of those entries, or you can wait till the winter time to see them on the road. 13 schools participated in the Healthier U.S. School Challenge and received the Smarter Lunchroom Award from the United States Department of Agriculture. Thomas Pullen Creative and Performing Arts Academy, and Arrowhead, Glass Manor, Patuxent, Robert Gray, and Scotchtown Hills Elementary School received a Silver Award and $1,000. Carmody Hills, Cool Spring, Edward M. Fellergy, Flintstone, Francis Scott Key, Samuel P. Massey, and Templeton Elementary Schools received the Bronze Award and a $500 award. Extra special shout out to Arrowhead Elementary School for receiving double honors, because they also received the Alliance for a Healthier Generation Award, which is only 1 out of 5 in the state of Maryland. At this time, I would like to call all those honorees up, pleased to receive a certificate for your amazing work, and for you to take a photo with our Board of Education members. So the principals from those schools, as well as our food and nutrition staff, please join. This concludes my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Golson. We have persons from the community who have signed up to speak, so we will now move to a public comment section. I would ask you to please abide by the rules that were given to you when you signed up. And the first person I would like to call is our councilperson from the 3rd District, Danielle Glaris, regarding CIP school construction. Councilwoman, please proceed, and welcome.
I'm not usually on this side of the speaker, so thank you, Dr. Thurden, and thank you, Board of Education members, and for all the public who joined us here today. You may or may not know, but there's 2 overflow rooms going on today. You're very popular with your agenda items. And I am here today to offer my full support for item number 7.01, amendments to the FY17 approved educational facilities master plan. So thank you for continuing to move with this really critical item on today's agenda. As many of you know, we started the master plan support project, the school system did, back in fall 2014. And we created, and you created, a list of schools based on data, based on critical areas, conditions, needs like access to rooms like pre-K. And we came up with a list of schools, and that is what we commonly refer to as our Cycle 1 list contained within that plan. In my district, in District 3, we have several of those schools on the list. And the one I'll speak to tonight is about Charles Carroll. And actually, one of the council members from the city of New Carrollton couldn't get signed up to speak, but is here in the audience. And that school today sits at 160% utilization. Back in 2014, you all had the wisdom. The consultants were right. We knew that the trajectory of our schools were going to need major infrastructure investment. And the time is now for us to do it. Just a few weeks ago, I had the opportunity of attending a meeting with community members on exactly this update. And there was one single word that repeatedly, the public and the community spoke, and that was about promise. And all of us in this room are promise keepers on moving forward our infrastructure investment. That's me as a county council member, that's you here as residents, it's my colleague, Councilmember Taveras, who is here, folks who are in the overflow rooms and folks who couldn't be here like Alice Bishop from Templeton Knolls, our Langley Park, Adelphi Hills, Pastor Dixon from Solid Rock Church, who were all here, and then all of you on the Board of Education and all our staff. We are promise keepers on making sure that this promise for moving our infrastructure is forward. Last year, I had the opportunity as chair of the Prince George's County Council to move 2 critical initiatives forward. One was a piece of state legislation to take a look at how we might innovatively construct our schools. Because at the end of the day, there is not enough money out there, and we got to be aggressive and clever and creative about moving forward. And 2 was an innovative thing that this county council has never ever done on a budget day, which is approved Resolution 33, which called for us to break down our silos between the county council, the county executive, and the Board of Education to take a look at alternative construction financing to move our construction forward and move our infrastructure needs forward. Because the truth of the matter is, we don't get it done alone. We get it done as partners, and that's going to mean bringing the private sector to the table. So with that, my 3 minutes are up. You have my fuller comments and paper, and thank you tonight for taking up this item, and please support item number 7.01. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman, and thank you for your support of our school system and the work of the Board of Education. I do want to recognize officially the presence of Councilwoman Taveras. Thank you for attending our hearing, our board meeting tonight. The next speaker is the president of Local 2250, Ms. Yorkshire. Would you please come forward?
Good afternoon, all. I'm the proud president of Local 2250, and I'm standing with me are my executive board and members. We're standing in protest of RFP 03019. This is the student transportation for school bus routes and the new amendment. This RFP outsources non-public routes and other vacancies due to the shortage of drivers and attendants. This shortage isn't limited to our county. It's a shortage of CDL drivers across the country. We're being promised that our current employees will not lose their jobs. They will be used to fill the vacancies on the other PG County bus routes. What our members will lose is the right to bid on preferred routes, such as non-public. Removing the non-public routes may have an adverse effect because these routes will be offered first to contractors, and our drivers will have to take the less desired and profitable routes, forcing many to seek additional employment. This RFP is being proposed for 5 years, which will interfere with our contract negotiations in October of 2021. How can we, in good faith, negotiate a contract already in place and threatening to take over our bargaining union? We understand this is an issue of student safety, but we too are concerned about students. They do come first. Although the students may arrive late, they do arrive because of the efforts of the dedicated employees. Employees who double and triple their runs to ensure the students arrive safely to their destinations, but not necessarily in a timely manner. This is a twofold problem: recruitment and retention of drivers and attendants. We must find the drivers and offer them a respectful salary and explain to them how their salaries are affected by proration up front to avoid them walking out on us after receiving training and a CDL through our program in less than a year. When recruiting experienced drivers, pay them in accordance to their experience up to a step 6. Let's work to retain the drivers who have shown their loyalty by making this system work when they have driven double and triple runs. Give them a minimum of 7 hours per day versus their current 5 or 6 hours, which is the reason why most of them have to have a second or third job. This increase in hours could possibly save you close to $5.6 million of your $10 million overtime budget, which continues to grow. It has been proven that outsourcing does not save money in the long run, and that the participants rarely have the same concerns for the students as those of us who live in the county. These are our children, grandchildren, and neighbors, whom we consider our precious cargo. One thing, my ask, kill the RFP because it's detrimental to our members today and in the future. Today, we're discussing outsourcing transportation. Tomorrow, we may be discussing central garage and maintenance and food service. We cannot allow this to happen to our local 2250 members.
Thank you, Madam President. The next speaker is Aaron Fox, individual regarding renovations cycle. Please come forward, sir.
Dr. Thornton, Board of Education members, thank you for hearing me today. My name is Aaron Foe. I am a council member from the town of Riverdale Park. I believe more importantly in that dialogue, though, I am the son of a career educator. My brother is an educator.
Just a moment, sir. We'll wait until our speakers and others leave. Sorry for the interruption. Just a moment.
That's fine. My sister is a lifelong educator, and I have been a teacher for 15 years in Fairfax County Public Schools. Today, I am here to speak on behalf of Riverdale Elementary and ensuring that it remains in Cycle 1 renovation for funding. I want to read a letter from the town of Riverdale Park. We discussed this at our town meeting the other night, and I would like to share this information with you. The town of Riverdale Park continues to be an active partner with Riverdale Elementary School, its students, and their families. Riverdale Elementary School is vital to the town and the future of our community. The town is concerned about the school building, related building systems, parking, and the impact that failing or limited systems have on students and their teachers. The town's mayor and council discussed these concerns at their June 3rd, 2019 meeting and directed that the town's concern be memorialized in this communication. The town appreciates that Riverdale Elementary School is currently designated for infrastructure improvements under the Prince George's County Public School System Cycle 1 renovation plan. The town strongly encourages PGCPS to ensure that Riverdale Elementary School maintains this priority status and that the county and state provide the requisite funding. The town's concerns are based on PGCPS statistics that include the following. 90% of RES students receive free and reduced lunches. 740 students in a space designated for 600 students and has a capacity rate of 123%, down from 165%. history of the building closures due to failing building systems and specifically limited parking for teachers and staff. We have 32 spots for 73 teachers. The selection of the first bullet point, 90% of RES students receive free and reduced lunches, above is intentional and serves to frame the urgency in which the town believes the necessary building renovations must occur. It is important to have a shared understanding that building closures very often equate to no food for many of the students on any given day. The reality of food insecurity among the student population and their families is real. Additionally, having a safe space that is appropriately heated or air conditioned is not a luxury, it is a necessity. The town recognizes the good work that the RES staff and their allies do each day and firmly believe that the building conditions hamper their efforts. The town strongly requests that the Prince George's Public School System ensure that Riverdale Elementary School remains on schedule for Cycle 1 renovations and that these renovations occur as soon as possible. The town appreciates the opportunity to share our concerns and looks forward to continuing the strong partnership with Riverdale Elementary School and the Prince George's County School Board. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Councilman. Our next speaker is Alice Bishop, and I would ask Hinder Galeas to please prepare to speak. Ms. Bishop, would you please come forward? Yes. Thank you so much. The next speaker is Hinder Galeas. Would you please come forward?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening, sir.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak today. My name is Hendrik Galeas, and I am a member of the first graduating class from International High School at Langley Park. Thanks. I am proud to say that I'm an immigrant. According to society, I was not born with privilege, but I like to think that privilege found me when I came to this country. I had the privilege of attending the International High School at Langley Park, where I was introduced to a second family. I worked hard to learn English and build a strong relationship with teachers and classmates. And because of this, I can say I am attending American University in the fall. The International High School at Langley Park gave me and many other students the opportunity to enjoy our basic human right, education. This was about equality and opportunity for everyone. My high school is made up of students from many different countries who had varied levels of education. However, our classes were designed to unite us as family with the goal of raising our levels of content knowledge and language skills. International High School at Langley Park gave me a home, a secure place, a family, and a community. However, I include myself because I feel like this school is still my home. However, we are not fully completed. We don't have a well-conditioned building that gives students tranquility and the safety to study every single day. This is why I stand here today, and I am here for them. I remember sitting in a classroom that was so hot during winter that we could not stay there and had to move to another room. We did not have a gym, a field for us to play, and more importantly, we felt like our school did not belong to us because we shared it with other schools. This felt like renting an apartment knowing that we could be kicked out because the apartment is not ours. We have done amazing things as a new school. As an international high school student, I graduated with one of the highest GPA. I took 5 AP classes. I was nominated for Student Excellence in Prince George's County. I'm a recipient of National Honor Society, and I was accepted to 6 colleges with 6 scholarships. I taught English skills to many newcomers in our school, and I taught students with their classes. This is what I gained from International High School at Langley Park. This school was open for students like me, and because of this school, we are able to be successful. I know I will not benefit from a new building because I'm going to college this fall, but I am not speaking for me. I am speaking for those students that are still in my school. And remember, our school is a building with walls with tomorrow inside. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next speaker is Samoria James, co-founder of Legends Public Charter School. There are 8 other speakers associated with the Legend Public Charter School. If you're prepared to speak, Mr. James.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Shamaria Kill James. I'm a co-founder of Legends Charter Schools. I'm here to garner your support for Legends Public Charter Schools, specifically speaking about the uniqueness of our financial education program. But first, let me tell you a story about a young man who grew up very modestly in a middle-class home, 5 to 6 folks in a 3-bedroom house with like a half bathroom. We were not poor, but money definitely wasn't in abundance. There was no such thing as extra money. What he heard quite often was, money don't grow on trees in this house. However, upon high school graduation and going to college, his mother purchased him an investment, which compounded over a 5-year period. As he matriculated through college, we know college is typically 4 years, but it took him just a little bit longer. But he graduated, it vested, and his mother handed him that investment, which he was able to use as cash flow when he didn't even know he would need it. Therefore, post-graduation, he was able to pay off a good portion of his college loans. Shortly after, got married and was able to contribute. The in-laws were happy about that. He purchased a vehicle for his family, had a down payment for his first home, and many years later has access to money to help fund the family's nonprofit, which is intensely focused on discovering, planning, and implementing innovative solutions for pathways of building economic and educational equity in the community. Now, close your eyes, maybe. Use your imagination and pick a very round number like 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, whatever you think that dollar amount was. I'll pause for a quick second, but a really quick second because I'm on the clock. All right, now that you have that number, whatever that number you selected, multiply it by 8, and then hold that number in your head. That number is the power of financial investing for Legends scholars that we begin in kindergarten. Legends has designed a program that will facilitate the opening of custodial investment accounts for every child that enters the school. So, pair high academically achieving students that have the power of capital to start a business, pay for college, or whatever their dreams are. Yes, I know what you're thinking. That's a very lofty goal. Absolutely. Our goal is to change the trajectory of children and families for years to come. You see, Legends financial education is much more expansive than financial literacy. No shots fired. It's the teaching of a necessary language. It's the seeds of knowledge to create the next Robert Smiths and Oprahs. It's the early building of their financial mental capacity, understanding and stamina, creating the foundation to build their generational wealth. In closing, I know the aforementioned story so intimately because that young man was me. And my beautiful mom, who is in the audience this evening, had the foresight to set me up, not only for academic success, but also setting me up for a long, steady, positive financial future. And Legends wants to facilitate the same for the wonderful children of Prince George's County. Thank you, Mom, I love you. Legends is who they are and who they will be. Thank you again for your time, and I appreciate the opportunity to partner with Prince George's County Public Schools.
Thank you, sir. The next speaker is Amina Williams, co-founder of the Legends Public Charter School. Ms. Williams.
Thank you and good evening. My name is Amina Williams, and I am a co-founder of Legends Charter School and a proud parent of PGCPS students. I wanted to take a moment to thank you for the opportunity to collaborate with PGCPS to provide an outstanding school choice option for the families of Prince George's County, and to highlight for you a particular aspect of the Legends school model that is important to me. Legends Charter School will be equipped with technology that will enable our students, faculty, and staff to go further faster. From technologically advanced 21st century learning environments to our central office backbone, the technology investment at Legends is deliberate and intentionally empowering. Legends classrooms will be furnished with computers and tablets to support our approach to blended learning. Specific blended learning platforms were strategically selected to support our well-rounded, advanced liberal arts curriculum and provide the best outcomes for our students' performance and growth. Classroom hardware will provide support that immediately delivers insightful and actionable information for improving effectiveness in classroom instruction. Athena is our innovative, unified solution that will power Legends Charter School's entire ecosystem, providing Legends with a collaborative, technological approach that is powerful and efficient. When we combine our technology investment with our school culture, support to classroom instruction, world-class professional development, unique sequence of course offerings, and state-of-the-art facility, the Legends Charter School model will prepare our students to demonstrate high academic achievement in all groups and compete at international levels. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
We do have one more on my.
That's true. You have 125, please.
Good evening. My name is Antoine Williams, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. As a parent of children within the Prince George's County Schools, I'm excited to be a part of a team who is passionate about providing quality education and an innovative curriculum that will service the children of our community. Our partnership with families and the Prince George's County community started with and will continue with meaningful input on our school design. We did our due diligence and included feedback from the community from our design session, surveys, and social media presence and attendance at various events in and around Prince George's County. Incorporating the community's feedback was very important to us. Legends Charter School is committed to communicating transparently and respectfully with the community from the onset as both customers and partners. If the Legends Charter School application is approved and once the facility is identified, the founding team will continually actively engage with the community with informational sessions, social media presence, and more. Staff of Legends will hold a series of open meetings for parents and community members after school and on weekends. Additionally, we will sponsor community outreach nights so parents and community members can be informed of the vision for this new school. We understand that this will take the support of families and the community for us to be highly effective and successful. We will remain engaged with the community, providing updates on our status and soliciting their continued support. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, sir. The next speaker is Mr. Patrick Boussoel. Am I pronouncing your name correctly? Please come forward. Mr. Patrick Boussoel. Help me out, Patrick.
Actually, Beausoleil, and my name's David Bourne. I'm speaking on behalf of Patrick Beausoleil, who wasn't able to be here tonight due to a family emergency. I hope that's all right.
It's okay.
Thank you.
Tell him I had some hesitancy, but because of the
I
importance
noticed
of
that.
this, we'll let you speak.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm speaking on behalf of Legends Public Charter School. I work for a company called Highmark School Development. We're a real estate development company that focuses primarily on educational facilities, mostly charter schools. Our business model allows a charter school to open in a permanent facility that fits the needs of its specific curriculum while shifting the financing and the risk of such an investment away from the public taxpayer funds. The entire cost of purchasing the land, developing the property, and constructing the facility, costs that are often in excess of $10 million, are provided solely by us and our investors so that taxpayer funds are not placed at risk. While we are technically investing in real estate, our primary investment and our primary focus is the people who will be running these schools. We align our interests with the school so that we are only successful if the school is successful, and the school is only successful if the students that they teach are successful. We are currently working with Legends Charter School to develop their permanent facility for their opening school year. As part of that process, we have searched dozens of properties, both virtually and in person, including today, to narrow down the ideal property for this specific school. We evaluate hundreds of schools each year and only select those that we have determined will be great schools, not just from an investment perspective, but also in terms of the value they will add to their community. Thank you for allowing me the time to speak this evening. Have a good night.
Thank you, sir. The next speaker is Atasha James. Ms. James.
Good evening, colleagues. It's my honor to be here tonight. I'm humbled to be before you. As a career educator, I started my career in 3rd grade. I spent the bulk of my career teaching middle school science, earth, life, and physical science. And what I know firsthand is that teaching and educating is the hardest work anyone who enters the industry will ever do. Leaving the classroom was very difficult for me. As I pursued my doctoral degree and I became an administrator, the demands of my job became much more clear that politics, community engagement, and finances all played critical factors in the success of school. During my tenure as a principal, I had the opportunity to try my hand at my first school design, and that iteration proved itself to be wildly successful. Where we thought Black and brown kids couldn't read, we proved what's possible. our children left reading at least 2 years above grade level. We closed the achievement gap with young Black scholars. What we're here today is filling a need in our community. Historically, what studies have shown is that poor Black kids can't achieve. We can do better, and we're here to show that we can do better. Prince George's County is a unique location, and we should be able to up the performance of our students, and we should be able to compete on a global platform. And I would not be here before you unless I, A, could do it, B, have done it, and have the team around me to prove what's possible yet again. What I also know is that education in itself doesn't prepare you to break the bonds that poverty offset. And so you have to put together the trifecta of a dynamic educational team. We funded our priorities. In each of our classrooms, K-5, there will be 2 adults. One who is steeped in his or her content area, and another who will allow for a teacher to do what he or she does, and that is teach. By offsetting our program with the social, emotional, and academic demands that allow for a teacher to be his or her best in a classroom, rather than wearing 1,000 hats that deter teachers away from their main focus and their priority. So I'm here today delivering a promise to our community that we will provide a world-class education, that we will have perennial success, and that we will work together as partners to make sure that Legends proves what's possible and restores the pride and trust in Prince George's County. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you, Ms. James. The next speaker is Andrea Mercer. Ms. Mercer, you'll please come forward. And if Ms. Calamari will prepare to speak. Ms. Mercer.
Hello and good evening. I'm here to speak on behalf of Legends Charter School. I'm here to speak about the cornerstone of the instructional approach of the Legends model. This approach provides individualized instruction and learning to students through deep differentiation made possible through a departmentalized model. I have seen this model work firsthand by working under Ms. James. Traditionally, we see at the high school level that in addition for a teacher having the skills as an educator, they also need to have the deep knowledge of that content area. So at the high school level, we see a calculus teacher is a teacher and also an expert in math. We see that a chemistry teacher is an expert teacher and also an expert in that science content area. We don't always see the same model at the elementary level. However, a teacher also needs a deep content knowledge to be able to teach a 5-year-old how to decode CVC words and how to count up to 10 and skip count by 2. So this same deep content knowledge is needed even at the elementary level. Ms. James' visions for Legends Charter School is one that would be transformative for Prince George's County. I can tell from experience that this model is successful and important in creating students who are not only smart and well-rounded, but responsible citizens. With a leader at the helm who is creative, experienced, and determined, Legends Charter School is on track to help many generations of students. I sincerely hope this statement outlined the importance of the model for Legends, and I sincerely hope that the vision becomes a reality sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mercer. Ms. Calamari, please.
Camilleri.
Camilleri.
Thank you.
Boy, oh boy, I'm not getting it tonight. Go ahead.
It's okay. My name is Larissa Camilleri. I have served as a parent engagement coordinator for 6 years. Parent engagement is key. As a military-affected family, it's critical to engage families in an authentic and intentional manner. That is what we've done, and that's what I'll do as we go further with Legends Charter. This is what makes a school exceptional. As a military mom, I can tell you firsthand that Legends is the reason we're invested in the school now. Legends' legacy and worth speaks for itself. I recall the wonderful things built due to their vision. 3 years highly effective, securing a state-of-the-art
$4,000 outdoor classroom. That's just impressive. You can agree with me. Because of the vision, we held partnerships with the Washington Redskins football team, Hearts of America, City Bridge, and many more. Our hard work outperformed a number of schools. The margins increasing achievements and test scores by 4% from school year 15 to 16. Again, really impressive. I recall administration personally knowing the students on a first-name basis. The children looked forward to seeing a smiling face upon arrival. Being greeted warmly every morning in the hall with a positive compliment is what students and families truly need. My own children thrived in math and reading, being a part of this vision. Fresh off the press from Germany, I can remember being 7 months pregnant, standing in the waiting room of the school, and torn between enrolling my 3-year-old. Administration was so eager to see my oldest son, 7 at the time, who was far behind on reaching his reading levels and intimidated by the type of work at school. I'm happy to report that my son reads at a Y level today. My younger son, he's doing well as well, excelling in A and B honor roll. My daughter, whom I was pregnant with, she's reading at an E level, entering 1st grade. These are the things that make me a proud parent to be a part of this organization. And I hope it brings back the importance of education and why Legends are an important factor in our children's lives. It's been my pleasure to serve Legends and their vision for 6 years, embarking on the beautiful outcome of one of the most magical times in my life, being a parent coordinator and involving myself with 572 students, over 130 staff members. This is a wonderful way to support the vision that Legends has given us. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. The next speaker is Antonio Barr, and if Ms. Coletta Butler would prepare to speak also. Mr. Barr.
Hello, my name is Antonio Barr. I worked under Atasha James for many years. She is probably one of the most visionary people that I work under. She has vision, clear cut, and a plan of how to make things happen. I'm one who came up through the PG County schools, and her vision is something that would definitely bring value to this county. This Legend School is something that I can honestly say that this county needs, and I just say I would bring Legends to this county. I have kids in PG County schools, and you know, being under Atasha James and seeing what the schools that PG County has to offer, this is legendary. This is definitely legendary things that she has planned, and I can honestly say this is something that the county needs. That's it.
Thank you, sir, for your testimony. And Ms. Butler, and if Mr. DeVos would prepare to speak. Ms. Butler.
Good evening. I stand before you today as a resident, a parent, and a middle school principal, and most importantly, a friend and mentee of Ms. Atasha James, and I am an ecstatic supporter of Legends Charter School. I trust Atasha with both of my children. She is a champion for children, and I can speak personally for the quality of her work. My daughter attended Principal James School from pre-K3 to 1st grade. My daughter entered pre-K3 with an IFSP. Now she is testing at above grade level in reading and in math, and she actually scored very well on her gifted and talented test this past spring. The school was an extended family made up of caring teachers who, of course, had a laser-like focus on my daughter's academic and emotional progress. As a parent, I was respected as a working mom and accommodated with reliable, safe accommodations before school and after school. I was given explicit requests about how I can support my child, and I was held accountable for their learning and by the community at large for me and my child to follow through on. I am praying that Legends be approved and is opening in 2020 because I will be able to invest in my daughter's future and stop paying private school tuition. Having participated in Legends design sessions and chart application committee with their board, I have full confidence that this school, as well as its founders, will be a source of hope and an attractive solution for Prince George's County, who love their community and merely want to put a new high-quality option, tuition-free, for our children of Prince George's County. So please approve Legend Charter. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Butler, for your testimony. The next speaker is Mackenzie DeVos. Please come forward.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak before you today. My name is Mackenzie DeVos, and I am the future director of social and emotional learning at Legends Charter School. Social and emotional learning at Legends is the process by which children and adults acquire and effectively apply the knowledge, attitudes, and skills necessary to understand and manage emotions, set and achieve positive goals, feel and show empathy for others, and maintain positive relationships and make responsible decisions. Some of our social and emotional learning goals and outcomes include study skills, organization, work habits, academic integrity, persisting, managing impulsivity, responsible use of technology, we know that's important, right? Awareness of support systems and value of education. We want our children to own their education and to be engaged in this process. As a licensed social worker, I could not be more excited about this model and the use of evidence-based approaches that address the whole child and have been proven to increase student achievement and satisfaction. Furthermore, students who attend schools with social emotional learning programs are less likely to experience negative outcomes, negative economic outcomes when compared to their peers in non-social emotional learning environments. So as a social worker, it is important to me that we mitigate some of the circumstances that keep our children from being successful as adults. And schools that have social emotional learning programs in them do that. I have known Atasha James as an educator for over 20 years. And during that time, Ms. James has been relentless in her innovative approach towards developing students, faculty, and school culture. We want schools that are well-rounded, that address everything, that move not only from the classroom, but also into the building as a whole and further into the community. A school culture that is thriving and produces excellence. We believe so strongly, my family and I believe so strongly in the proposed model that we are vested in relocating to this area to be a part of the amazing opportunity that is Legends Charter School. I thank you for your time, and I hope that you will approve our application. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. DeVos. And the next speaker is Mr. Philip Van Wildenberg. Got that right. Please come forward, sir, and the next speaker after him would be Essence Herndon, if you would prepare to speak.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Philip Van Wiltenberg. You did get it correct. And as a resident of Accokeek, Maryland, I'm the board member representing the Greater Accokeek Civic Association tonight. And as a member of Sonia Williams' Accokeek Academy Boundary Change Task Force, I am concerned with tonight's proposed agenda item for 7.03 on the over-enrollment at Accokeek Academy. This option is only addressing a small portion of the problem, which is needed to fully address overcrowding at Accokeek Academy. The option will partially reduce overcrowding at Accokeek Academy, as this option, by keeping Fort Washington's 6th grade students at Potomac Landing, will reduce the number of students at Accokeek Academy by approximately 90 pupils. But it leaves Accokeek Academy with still over 100 students more than the state-rated capacity. This overcrowding will only continue because will worsen as ongoing development. Between 700 and 1,000 new homes are still scheduled to be developed in Accokeek. When those are completed, we'll still have that problem. I'm also concerned because you've made zero provisions for the future options made during the first reading, which would have addressed in the longer term continued overcrowding at Accokeek Academy by having all Fort Washington's middle school students complete 6th through 8th grades in a neighborhood middle school in Fort Washington. I'm further concerned by the lack of progress in advancing the capital improvement funding for Potomac Landing. Though listed in item 7.3, the SIP plan's presentation as part of a Cycle 1 project, it's also still listed as TBD. And the continued lack of decisions is only going to create further delays. We in the Accokeek Academy Boundary Change Task Force worked on this problem for much of the last 2 years and had proposed solutions that to Accokeek and Fort Washington communities liked. The board and CEO need to address the entire problem now and not just continue with half measures. Include us and other community stakeholders in completing the deliberations on options to complete the overcrowding resolution. Finally, still not mentioned at all is a need for stricter implementation of shared housing policies to prevent shared housing from becoming a contributor or cause of overcrowding at every Prince George's County public school. Without stricter shared housing rules implementation, Accokeek Academy will continue to face overcrowding in the future. We are extremely disappointed in the efforts of the board and CEO with this proposed board action. For the past 5 years, our communities have been stuck in the same cycle of half measures and inadequate community involvement. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Essence Herndon, if you would please come forward. Ms. Herndon.
Good evening, board.
Good evening.
I'm speaking about the current school calendar, even though we are down to our last handful of days, literally. Something that was done in April's board meeting about extending the school calendar, we understand that there were 11 two-hour early dismissals and delay days that were used. 6 were already built into the calendar, as it's stated on the calendar. The other ones came from, of course, inclement weather. That ended up extending our school year to June 14th. As a 10-month employee, we go by days. We have an obligation by contract to fulfill 185 days. Without snow days, our last day of school would have been June 11th. So with the 2 snow days in closing, that extended to the 13th. When the 14th came about, I've had fellow drivers in attendance come to me and ask, so what are they going to do about the 14th? Because as of June 13th, it would be day 185 that we have fulfilled our contractual obligation as 10-month employees. I have asked the question. I have yet to receive an official answer. Their issue is, will they plus us in, basically just pay straight hours for the 14th? Because as it stands right now, we are believing that we will not get paid for the 14th, even though that makes it day 186 for 10-month employees. So I just come to basically ask that we get some clarification on that. Also, in the future running, when it comes to these inclement weather days, we're asking that the board does communicate with our local 2250 unit to make sure that we're not overlapping our days, because again, we will be at day 185 on the 13th, and the 14th will make it day 186. So that's what we are asking. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Because among our 15 permitted speakers, one person was not present to speak, we'll call one person from the sign-in sheet as of 7 o'clock tonight. If Ms. Sayens is here, is Gladys here? I don't see her, so Mr. McGee, are you here? I don't, Mr. McGee, Mr. Richard McGee, and he would be the only speaker from that list, and our final speaker, Mr. McGee.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and all those present tonight, both in person and in electronic attendance. My name is Richard McGee. I am a proud graduate of Prince George's County School System. I graduated from Bladensburg Senior High School, 1970. Mustangs, right on. I'm currently a proud teacher in the county, and I'm here tonight because of the need to shed light on the qualifying system that certifies teachers. The current teacher certification system does not take into account your previous work experience in its computations leading towards certification. The current system does not give credit towards your work experience that you directly bring to the students. I teach TV and film production at Suitland High School, and I have performed and taught my skills to countless current professionals. However, these experiences didn't count for the 2 points that I needed towards my certification. It did not count for anything tangible that leads to the goal of certification. So tonight I want you to know that I have 30 years of experience in commercial television. I have led and I have managed major newsrooms in Washington, D.C. I have the highest award given in professional television news and entertainment. But yet, you penalized me by denying me certification because I scored 525 cumulative points on a practice examination, and I needed 527 points to actually pass. Therefore, no sweat. So I returned to take the test 2 months later and said, I'll get the 2 points. But when I got there, I was told that I couldn't take the test because they changed the test. Well, I'd known that they were going to change the test, I would have come back in 2 weeks and not 2 months to get the 2 points. I have been teaching in the school system for 6 years now, but I refer to June as Bloody Month. All those who do not have certification is cut loose from the system. I have taken this test more than 8 times with a cost of more than over $100 each time. I feel the process is outdated, and it doesn't take into consideration the one thing that is so valuable to teaching our students, and that is direct experience coming from the workplace professionals, directly addressing their needs and showing them how they can build a future. The career technology education, I hear that. I thank you. I thank you for your time. I just wanted to share that with you so we can do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And on behalf of the board, I want to thank all of those who came out tonight to speak on the various issues before the Board of Education. We will now yield the floor to Dr. Golson for an introduction of our first discussion item this evening, which is a budget briefing on the reconciliation of the FY20 annual operating budget. Please be reminded as Dr. Golson begins her presentation that the board's Operations, Budget, and Fiscal Affairs Committee will assist the board in developing with Dr. Golson a reconciliation proposal. Board members that have questions regarding the budget to reconciliation, please forward those to the committee for consideration with a copy to me and other board colleagues. I'll now yield the floor to Dr. Golson.
Mr. Michael Herbstman, Chief Financial Officer, will provide an overview of fiscal year 2020 annual operating budget.
Thank you.
Good evening. Tonight I will be presenting, as Dr. Golson said, on the current status of the operating budget and where we stand prior to reconciliation. And that will be followed by a short presentation on the planned use of Kerwin funding for next year. So in this budget recap, on the right side, you'll see the FY 2020 Board of Education requested budget expenditures. On the top left, we'll see the revenues, In this section, we're looking at the revenues absent of any new county revenues for this year. So when we look at the reconciliation at the bottom, we see that your Board of Education request really went to the county council requesting $46 million in county funds. The county executive's proposal was to add $23 million, which left the deficit at about half of that, still $23 million. And as county council passed their budget recently, included the same amount in unrestricted funds. What was added to this as the staffs worked together to add in some of the restricted funds, including the Kerwin money, making sure that we'd have that available at the beginning of the year. Over the last 2 months, there have been some additional changes to the budget. That starts with negotiation increases is by far the largest, including the longevity step at $18 million. We've also seen ads for required match for the Maryland Safe to Learn Act training grant. The state recently notified us that we will have to contribute about $1.1 million more to the teacher retirement system next year. We are also procuring a purchase office management supports, looking at budgeting phase 2 of the county performance audit, as well as adding a CTE evening high school program and a CTE hub, which will actually be funded by grant funds. So here we see the combination of the two of those slides, really the true budget deficit before we get into reconciliation. On the left, you see the shortfall in the board request of $23.1 million, and the required budget changes from the previous slide get us to about $46 million. On Monday, we will be presenting the CEO's recommendations for eliminating this budget deficit to the Operations, Budget, and Fiscal Affairs Committee. Moving on to the Kerwin funding. This year, we are looking at an increase of about $53.6 million from these funds. All of these dollars really are tied to a specific legislative purpose. So with a couple of rare exceptions that we'll talk about in the reconciliation process, most of this money really can't be moved to help us to alleviate that budget deficit that you saw in the previous slides. The first funding stream under the Kerwin Blueprint is the Teacher Salary Incentive Grant Program. And this is for school systems that are able to negotiate with their teachers union at least a 3% salary increase during the year, or for the following year. Anyone who gets to that level, the state kicks in an additional 1.5%. So right now the contract has not yet been ratified, but will be soon, and it'll be well above this level. So we do expect to receive these grant funds next year. The Concentration of Poverty Grant Program is to provide additional supports for schools that have a high concentration of poverty, over 80% free and reduced price meal eligibility. They will receive a professional healthcare practitioner. Right now, each of the 45 schools that are eligible already has a full-time nursing position, and any vacancies after retirements this year will be prioritized as we hire nurses prior to the school year. Each school will also receive a community school coordinator, and any additional funds in this legislation that are left over after those two positions are in place at each school are allowable as wraparound services. And on the next slide, we'll talk a little about what wraparound services are. But the way that we envision using these additional funds is through a school level grant program. So a school team would put together a proposal on how they could best use these funds within the guidelines of the wraparound services, and would work with central office and others to fully plan and implement this. So we wanted to show the definition of wraparound services from the legislation, and it does very closely align with many of the priorities that both this board and administration have talked about throughout the budget process. Includes extended learning and safe transportation, as well as additional social workers, counselors, psychologists, and restorative practices, and other items like improving student attendance. In the first year of pre-K expansion, the district is looking to convert 9 half-day classrooms to full-day classrooms, as well as pilot a universal pre-K program at 17 sites. This is really to increase the number of students that are eligible in spaces where there are seats available. Another part of this is to realign the full-day classes with low or no enrollment to other sites. The education of students with disabilities money will go towards district-wide training for all teachers over this summer, as well as planning time for special education teachers to work on IEPs. Equipment for students with specific disabilities, summer reading program, IEP and 504 accountability through monitoring site visits, IEP translation, and additional family supports. The transitional supplemental instruction funding is for K through 3 students performing below grade level. This money would be used towards a digital learning program for our early learners. This would focus on specifically K through 3 students in the TSI schools, and focus would be on both literacy and math. And as part of this program, there would also be in-kind digital supports, including tablets for students. This mental health services coordinator is $83,000 for the district. This is for a position that is already in the district and was required by previous legislation. So that was, this is really going towards helping to fund that previously unfunded mandate. So moving forward, as has been mentioned a few times tonight, on June 10th, administration will be presenting to the OBFA committee on the CEO proposed budget reconciliation. Following that, the committee will release a community budget survey. And on June 17th, the committee will be working in a work session to fully reconcile the budget and propose a committee recommendation to the full board. Then on June 20th, the vote is scheduled for your FY 2020 approved operating budget. And we'll turn it over for any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Golson. You may, and thank you, sir. You may now receive questions or comments from the board, and I recognize Mr. Wallace.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, administration, for the overview. I look forward to the committee's work next Monday, and I will be taking some notes for colleagues. If any pertinent points come up, I'll make sure the committee discusses them at such time. My only 2 questions on the presentation were first on slide 7 regarding the professional healthcare practitioners. And the focus on schools that have vacancies, nursing vacancies. And will the individuals that we are looking to hire for the professional healthcare practitioners, will they meet the state's requirement, or will, I know Prince George's County has a higher requirement, you know, we like, that we would like to have for our nurses, but will they meet the state requirement or our local tougher requirement?
So the legislation requires when it says professional healthcare practitioner for it to be a doctor, nurse, or RN. So we would have to follow those guidelines, which would be a nurse for us, and there are 9 schools out of the 45 that have a vacancy.
Thank you so much. My last question is on slide 9, and do we have a list of the current universal pre-K sites, the 17 sites?
Yes, we do. I'll provide the 17 and the 9 that are being converted from half-day to full-day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Ahmed.
Mr. Wallace took one of my points asking about the 17 sites, so thank you for that. I did have another question on slide 10. The first point there about district-wide training for all teachers prior to school opening on IEP compliance and supports. I appreciate that, and I think that's very valuable. It's great to have, but I'm wondering, why is this not something that we're also doing for administrators? Because at the end of the day, it's the administrators that are that teachers don't have the authority to take a special educator out of a class to support something else. They don't have the final say. So I'm wondering, where's the support, the training for administration?
We don't have to use Kerwin funds to do that because our administrators are 12-month employees.
Okay. And then what will that training look like?
So our special education department is in the process of planning what that district-wide training looks like, but it is for those teachers who actually have any special education student, whether it's 1 or 30.
Okay, and then I just wanted to mention a couple of points as we go into reconciliation. One thing that kind of came as a shock to me, maybe it was because it wasn't on my radar, but it's my understanding that we're not continuing the resident teacher program for next year. Or why are we not funding that program?
Yes, but it has nothing to do with Kerwin. It has to do with being out of compliance with Maryland State Department of Education.
Oh my gosh.
That was shared in a weekly update. I can give you the date.
Oh no, that's me not keeping it on my radar then. I think that is very concerning for me, only because we just heard from a person who is bringing real life experience to the classroom, and I would love to see more of our teachers, educators in the classroom that have had real world experience, and the certification program was an excellent way to get there. Is there anything that we can do in the meanwhile to help bring more of those kinds of educators into the classroom?
So actually, we are working to clear up that issue with Maryland State Department of Ed so that we can make sure we restore the program, but in the way that is compliant with the requirements for the state. So it would only be gone for a year, but we still have alternative pathways.
Okay, are we looking to have that program reinstated by the fall or later than the fall?
No, we have guaranteed Maryland State Department of Ed that it will be up and running for the 2021 school year.
Okay, I would just ask then if there were any folks that were accepted to the resident teaching program or very strongly considered, and us not continuing that they be considered for any deferral that we do when that starts back up.
If they're already in the program from
Then they
the
continue?
last, correct. We're correcting those now.
Okay. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is this Board of Education had approved a budget that included 21 school psychologists and 18 social workers. And those folks have been coming to our board meetings. I know some of them are here today. Ms. Maslick, I see in the audience. They've been going to the county council meetings. It's a dire need for our school district. It's a dire need for our students. And so I'm wondering how much can we go to adding those psychologists and social workers in the as we look at reconciliation.
So that's why slide 4 is extremely important, because we have a $46 million deficit that we have to close. So the addition of anything at this point is going to make that gap even larger.
I also, so then to that point, we have a $46 million deficit as it showed on this slideshow, but the next slide shows $53 million coming in from Kerwin. How much of that Kerwin funding is being, how much of that funding can offset that $46 million?
Unfortunately, 4 of those 6 areas are restricted.
4 of the 6 areas are restricted, which means we have to treat it as if it's grant money and it can't be used anywhere else but in those specific categories. So I will add up for you the small amount of what's not restricted, but it's very small. Actually, if you look at the slides, you'll see where it says restricted or unrestricted on the left-hand side at the very bottom, in the bottom box, but I can total up the unrestricted because it's only 2.
Okay.
So the unrestricted amounts, according to the state, are the mental health service coordinator, which will help alleviate the budget deficit by paying a portion of that position, and the pre-K, supplemental pre-K funding is specifically unrestricted. It is for the student, for the students that we already have in the system.
Thank you,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Ahmed. Colleagues, keep in mind that this is a high-level, very high-level, broad discussion, and so let's try not to substitute tonight the very intense deliberations we'll have before the committee and the board. Ms. Queen, Ms. Shepherd, and Mr. Murray.
Thank you, Dr. Thornton. Unlike my colleagues, I'm not worried about the deficit. I feel like that we'll find the money. We just need to make sure that all of our kids had a quality education, no matter what their needs are, whether it's schools, whether it's a desk, whether it's new schools, everybody need it across the board. But I have questions. I would like a list of the schools in my district that are eligible for the CSC coordinators, the community coordinators. And I also would like to know, will they be community residents locally within the communities? Will they be chosen for that? Nobody have an answer? Tick-tock, tick-tock. Well, the next question is then, Judith P. Hoyers, I know it's one of my schools, and as I visited a couple of schools, and some of my schools don't have nurses, and I know they don't have a nurse because they were having field day when I went there, and they had borrowed another nurse. I want to make sure that they do have a full-time nurse at that school. So I do like to know if that's one of the, I think you said it was 8 schools or something that didn't have one. I would like to know that if they are one.
There are 9. I don't have the list in front of me, and the list you asked for before is for a list of 45.
Okay. Thank you so very much. That's all the questions.
Thank you, Ms. Queen. Ms. Shepherd.
Yes, I have a question on page 12. If you can elaborate a little bit more on what exactly is the mental health service coordinator and what are they going to be doing? I know that there's an article in there, but I don't know where to get it.
We actually already have that position in existence, so Ms. Mason, Dr. Mason will provide you what they currently do.
The mental health coordinator for Prince George's County is currently Scott Showalter. He is a school psychologist. His responsibility is to ensure that we coordinate our services, whether we're using our internal resources for mental health supports, but he's also assisting in the development of a framework that will enable us to identify external experts that really meet the criteria that can best meet the needs of our students at various different developmental levels. So Mr. Showalter has continued to serve in that capacity this school year. He has been a point of contact when there have been crises. He's provided a series of professional learning opportunities, both for our students and for our parents and families. He's an outstanding school psychologist, and he will continue to serve us next year, and will be able to do so on a full-time basis in that role.
Thank you, Ms. Shepherd. To Mr. Murray.
I'll be brief, Dr. Wilson. I just wanted to commend you on the added paperwork time for special educators. It's something that I receive at my school and is incredibly important, not only into the compliance aspect, but making sure that we're creating quality documents that reflect students' needs. And I also just wanted to urge you to consider keeping the home visit line item and the financial literacy line item.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. And thank you, Dr. Golson, for that high-level budget presentation. And we look forward to you and your staff's interaction with our budget committee and subsequently the board to reconcile the budget of FY20. I'll now yield the floor to Dr. Golson again to introduce items 5.1 through 5.7 under the budget consent agenda. Dr. Golson.
Items 5.1 through 5.7 requires board approval of the July and August 2019 expenditures, contract award requests for proposals for basic life insurance,
optional life insurance and long-term disability insurance coverage. A, and 1-year extension for general banking services, a request by WSSC for an easement and right-of-way, contract award for the USDE Teacher and School Leader Incentive Grant, and a lease agreement for Prince George's County Public School copier and print management services.
Thank you, Dr. Golson. Colleagues, may I have a motion regarding items 5.1 through 5.7 under the budget consent agenda?
Mr. Chair, can we separate 5.07, please? Thank you.
The motion would be regarding 5.1 through 5.6. Separately, we'll deal with 5.7. Is there a motion? It's been properly moved and seconded that the board adopts 5.1 through 5.6. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposing, no. The ayes have it. Ms. Ahmed, 5.7.
Thank you. Dr. Watts, I just had a question of what does this contract mean for the district?
Ms. Ahmed, this is the copier and print program that we have. We currently have a 5-year contract that's coming to an end now. This is a renewal of that. So we went out to bid and selected a vendor. We're awarding a vendor, and it's approximately a $9 million savings over a 5-year period for this new contract.
Okay, thank you. I had seen that it was a new program, so that's why I was curious as to why it would be new. But if it's a continuation and you're saving a lot of money, that seems really great. Thank you.
And it's for the same service.
Okay, perfect.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Colleagues, the vote is now on 5.7, the lease agreement item. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposing, no. The ayes have it. I'll now move to the non-consent agenda. I'll now yield the floor to Dr. Golson to introduce items 7.1 to 7.3.
Item 7.1 through 7.3 requires board approval for the fiscal year 2020 amendments to the Educational Facilities Master Plan, contract approval for the Legends Public Charter, and approval of grade structure change from kindergarten through 5th grade to kindergarten through 6th grade for Potomac Landing Elementary School and the portion of Fort Washington Forest Elementary School that matriculates to Accokeek Academy. The recommendation from administration is to select option 1 for item 7.3.
Thank you. A motion is in order regarding 7.1, 7.2, 7.3. Is there Mr. Wallace?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I would like to request that we separate all 3 items to have separate votes.
Thank you. Colleagues, with no objection, we will deal with each item individually. A motion is in order regarding item 7.1. Is there a second? It's been properly moved that 7.1 be adopted by the board. I'll recognize Mr. Wallace.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On behalf, colleagues and the public, on behalf of the Operations, Budget, and Fiscal Affairs Committee, OBFA, we had a very robust discussion, and there were proposed additions to the CEO's proposed FY20 amendments to the 2017 Educational Facilities Master Plan. Those amendments, I believe, are being
distributed, yes.
Distributed by our executive director. But just to summarize briefly, it wasn't just schools being added, but also some language sent to the administration. And I'll read verbatim to the memorandum, a section from the memorandum that I sent to the board chair. The committee had a very robust discussion, which included topics such as school system enrollment, school capacity, the schools contained within various cycles of the EFMP, the methodology used to assess the schools and how to address overcrowding within the system, and the relationship of the EFMP to the system's capital improvement program. The committee also noted that a correction needed to be made to the EFMP to reflect that Suitland High School is now in the in-design phase, not the feasibility study phase. And I want to personally thank colleagues for approving that at the last meeting. The committee believes that it would be important for the Board of Education to have data regarding an option to address the overcrowding of high schools by shifting the boundaries of high schools. The committee agreed to recommend that a study be conducted to obtain this data. There was a motion made by the committee's vice chair and the board's vice chair, Mr. Burrows, and was seconded by Board Member Queen to forward this recommendation to the board with Mr. Wallace, Mr. Burrows, Mr. Murray, Ms. Queen voting in favor of that motion, and Mr. Valentine voting in opposition to that motion. After the discussion of various schools within the EFMP cycles, the committee decided that schools should be added to Cycle 1 of the EFMP. The committee agreed to recommend adding the following 6 schools to Cycle 1 of the EFMP in order to promote geographic diversity and due to the physical conditions of the following schools: Isaac J. Gordine Middle School, Thurgood Marshall Middle School, Maya Angelou French Immersion, Beltsville Academy, William Pickett Elementary School, and Carmody Hills Elementary School. The committee noted that all of the middle schools within PGCPS were at or over capacity, and that there was an approved residential development in the Westphalia area that included land for the development of a middle school. The committee agreed to recommending the addition of new middle school number 3 within the Westphalia area for planning purposes. And after this lengthy discussion, it was moved by Mr. Burrows and seconded by Ms. Queen and accepted the various friendly amendments to add said schools. The motion was approved 4-0, and Mr. Valentine was not present for that vote. That is the end of the memorandum. Colleagues, the committees like to move. I guess it's a secondary motion, Mr. Chair.
It would be an amendment, a proposed amendment to the
proposed amendment to the motion.
Thank you. It's the committee's report is being offered as a proposed amendment to the EFMP. Is there a second of that? Okay, it's moved and seconded. I don't see any other discussions of that. And Ms. Ellis, if you will call the roll.
Ms. Ahmed.
Aye.
Ms. Boozer Strother.
No.
Mr. Burrows.
Aye.
Ms. Eubanks. Mr. Montero.
No.
Mr. Murray.
Aye.
Ms. Page. Ms. Queen. Ms. Shepherd.
No.
Mr. Thomas.
No.
Mr. Valentine.
No.
Mr. Wallace.
On behalf of the committee, aye.
On behalf of yourself.
Mrs. Williams.
No.
Dr. Thornton.
No.
Six ayes and 7 ayes.
Thank you. We'll go back to the main motion for further discussion. Mr. Burrows.
I move to add Isaac J. Gordine Middle School and Thurgood Marshall.
Second.
It's been moved to, as an amendment to the main motion, to add Thurgood Marshall and Gordine. Ms. Williams, on the motion to amend. It's to amend, not on that. Any discussion? Hearing no discussions, the amendment is, I see Mr. Thomas, is that right? No?
Yeah, just as a point of clarity,
Yeah.
It's just those two schools
Just those
as
two
opposed
schools.
to
The seven.
the 7 originally, and that was Gordine, and the other was?
Thurgood Marshall.
Thurgood Marshall. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ellis, please call the roll.
Ms. Ahmed.
Aye.
Ms. Boozer Strother.
No.
Mr. Burrows.
Aye.
Ms. Eubanks. Mr. Montero.
No.
Mr. Murray.
Aye.
Ms. Page. Ms. Queen. Ms. Shepherd.
No.
Mr. Thomas.
No.
Mr. Valentine.
No.
Mr. Wallace.
No.
Ms. Williams.
No.
Dr. Thornton.
Yes.
5 ayes and 8 nays.
We'll go back to the main motion. Hearing no other additions or amendments to the main motion, please call the roll regarding the main motion.
Ms. Ahmed. I'm sorry.
Abstain.
Abstain.
Ms. Boozer Strother,
Yes.
Mr. Burrows,
No.
Ms. Eubanks. Mr. Montero,
Yes.
Mr. Murray,
Yes.
Ms. Page, Ms. Queen, Ms. Shepherd,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Valentine,
Aye.
Mr. Wallace,
Aye.
Mrs. Williams,
Yes.
Dr. Thornton.
Yes. Ms. Queen, you passed. Do you want to cast a vote or just be listed? Please call her back again.
Ms. Queen,
Thank you. Count, what is the vote?
okay, so it's 11 ayes, 1 nay, and 1 abstain.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, please turn your attention to item 7.2, Legends Public Charter School. A motion is in order. Motion is in order regarding 7.2.
Proudly. One second.
Proudly.
You're rushing to do that, Mr. Burrows. Okay. The motion is moved and properly seconded by Mr. Burrows and by Mr. Murray, and I'll recognize Ms. Williams. I'm sorry? No? Okay. Seeing no further discussions, please call the roll.
Aye.
Ms. Boozer Strother,
No.
Mr. Burrows,
Aye.
Ms. Eubanks, Mr. Montero,
Aye.
Mr. Murray,
Aye.
Ms. Page, Ms. Queen, Ms. Shepherd,
Pass.
Mr. Thomas,
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Wallace,
Aye.
Mrs. Williams,
No.
Dr. Thornton,
Aye.
nine ayes. Who did I put? I did. She abstained.
What was the vote for Ms. Shepherd?
I abstain.
Abstain. Okay. Please report the vote.
9 ayes, 3 nays. and
Thank
1
you.
abstain.
Colleagues, would you please turn your attention to item 7.3, and I understand, Dr. Golson, you have a comment regarding that?
Yes, as stated earlier, I would like the board to consider option 1. Through the public hearing that was held on May 15th, there were 12 speakers in support of option 1, 2 speakers in support of option 2. Via email, there were 12 emails in support of option 1 and 2 emails in support of option 2.
Thank you. So, Dr. Golson, what you're asking the board to consider is option 1. That's the proposal.
That is correct.
Okay. So, colleagues, the motion before you from the recommendation from the superintendent is option 1. I'll recognize Ms. Williams.
First, I'd like to thank the administration for all the time that you spent with the Accokeek Academy Boundary Task Force. This has been a long road, and the community really appreciates the opportunity to participate in this process. Option 1 is the option that the community really supports, because there were 2 goals of the Accokeek Academy Boundary Task Force. One was to reduce the number of students that are in Accokeek Academy and keep the Fort Washington students in the Fort Washington community to be educated. And with this option 1, we will be doing that. And so what we found, even a surprise to me, is that this conversation about boundaries is a complex one, because District 9 has the most undeveloped land in the community. There are a number of developments that are on the books. What we don't have any input in is when those developments are going to be built, the number of students that will come to our school system, or the grade in which they will they will enter the school system. So it's very complex. And so our projections are usually inadequate, especially when when we look at the development and it's approved and it takes years for them to break ground. So it's hard for us to predict how many students will come into the community. So this was a part of the discussion, and the community recommended or suggested option 1 for consideration, and they believe that this is going to be the best for their children. So again, I want to thank the administration, and I appreciate the community for all of their input and bearing with me for like 2 years almost in regular meetings. And so we're looking forward to implementing this option 1. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Mr. Valentine.
Thank you. And this is a question, and it actually was brought up by one of the public speakers, but something I had heard from another resident of the area. And this relates to enrollment at this school of students who are actually zoned for that school. And there is concern from the community that there are a number of students who may, I want to say may be living outside of even Prince George's County. And so my point to that particular resident was that I would inquire with you about whether it was a staffing issue on our side with regard to individuals who could check on residency and enrollment of those students. And then secondly, when those students are referred to us for withdrawal from the school or for our school system, what happens particularly at this place when many students are sent back because, as I was told, students are allowed to stay in the school for the remainder of the year, even though we found evidence that they do not belong in the school because their residency does not match up. And so if it's a budget question, then I think it's good to have that question now, whether it's a personnel issue, whether we have the people who can do it. But if it's an appeals issue, I think it's something I'd like to discuss with you at a later date around the process of which we take information regarding residency and how we enroll students, particularly at a school that is vastly over-enrolled.
I actually just want to take 1 second to respond to that. We too had heard that same information from our community about the large number of students on shared housing at Accokeek. And so we then reached out to People Accounting and School Boundary and determined that that information was not accurate. We have far fewer on shared housing than we thought we did. It was not one of the major determinants on why that Accokeek Academy's enrollment is so high.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. And I would just say, in addition to that, if it's not a question of us being able to verify, which as I'm hearing from you, that you do have the personnel to do the verifications, and after your personnel has done that, then you've cleared that that's not the case. In the event that there are cases of shared housing or out of boundary or out of county, that when those are referred to us here at the appeals office, what determination is made whether to leave that child in the school for the remainder of the year or to remove that child from the school.
Understood. We can add that for sure, to include that in the response back to the board. And I will also provide the information that was shared with the PTSA/O presidents of those neighboring schools as it related to the shared housing numbers.
Thank you, Mr. Valentine. Mr. Wallace.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And follow up with Mr. Valentine's comments. Is there I know this is for our executive director or for the administration, is there a board policy or an administrative procedure on the books for shared housing? Is there a board policy or an administrative procedure on the books right now for shared housing?
Yes, there
Has
is.
it been reviewed in the past couple of years?
I'll look and see what the date is to see if it's part of the 90-something. It has been, it is, it's actually on our list. So the administrative team has been charged to update procedures, and we have 91 procedures that are being updated before July 1, and it is one of those that will be updated.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and Ms. Ahmed and her team will certainly be leading that effort with Dr. Golson. Final speaker, Ms. Ahmed.
So, colleagues, I'm a little bit confused because in the board action summary, there's option 1 and option 2 short term, and then there's option 1, option 2 long term. And so I'm wondering, is option one short-term related to option one long-term? Okay, and then option two is the option two. Okay, I think, I was looking at the sheet that showed how much, utilization and capacity there would be if we did option one. And it's significantly more. It's what, 140 some percent. And so what I'm seeing, what I'm concerned about is that we're reducing slight overcrowding at Accokeek to flood another school that doesn't have the capacity to hold the students, hoping that we'll get the funds to build an addition. And so that doesn't make sense to me. If I'm following all this correctly.
And so the funds have been allocated for that expansion, and the community is aware that, we will have to have temps, in the meantime until it has been appropriated and built.
How many temps are we talking about?
That, I don't have that number, but it's not like
But-
20, it's a small number. Remember, this is an elementary converted to a middle, K-8.
And you said the funds are allocated for that addition of 400?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Ahmed. Mr. Wallace.
So I guess my question to administration, I guess Ms. Williams as well, am I understanding correctly, following Ms. Ahmed's point of comments, we have some folks that would rather their child be in a temp than in a in-school facility?
So even if they went to Accokeek, they would potentially be in a,
temps.
correct.
Okay.
Thank you. Colleagues, your vote is now on item 7.3, option 1, as presented by the CEO, Dr. Golson. Please call the roll, Ms. Ellis.
Ms. Ahmed,
No.
Ms. Boozer Strother,
Yes.
Mr. Burrows, Ms. Eubanks, Mr. Montero,
Yes.
Mr. Murray,
Aye.
Ms. Page, Ms. Queen,
Colleagues, since Ms. Williams is the school board for this district, I'm going to say aye and go with what she recommended. Aye.
okay, Ms. Shepherd,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Valentine,
Aye.
Mr. Wallace,
In the same vein of Ms. Queen, give district courtesy to Ms. Williams. Aye.
Mrs. Williams,
I need to think about it.
Okay.
Say no. Absolutely, yes.
Dr. Thornton,
Aye.
okay, 12 ayes, 1 nay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Colleagues, follow-up items from May 9th board meeting have been posted to board docs for your information. I have a motion to, we're going to have to adjourn back to executive session, so a motion is in order to do that, and we'll approve those executive session minutes at our next board meeting. So a motion is in order to adjourn back to executive session. It's been properly moved and seconded. Those in favor of that, please say aye. The ayes have it. Those in no, there are no noes. So thank you all. Colleagues will adjourn briefly to executive session.